Thanks for coming to hear my talk, Just Imagine. It's a real pleasure to be speaking on this particular conference theme, the art of imagination, creativity through the piano. And what I hope to do is to show you just how the imagination can work like magic.
So I've been teaching piano for 49 years without any break, and over that time I've become very curious as to how people learn. You would have encountered that people are so different in their ways, kids and adults and teenagers, the way that they learn. And sometimes you hit some struggles, and with performing as well. So not only my students, but for myself, I had some issues to resolve. So what I did was I trained and qualified and am now in practice as a hypnotherapist and NLP, neuro-linguistic-programming. So I've learnt a lot, and it's transformed the way that I teach and the way that I deal with people in the music learning and performing situation. So I'd like to share that with you, and that's the perspective that I bring to you in this talk I'm going to give. And as I said, I will have question time near the end. So I have been practicing hypnotherapy now for 5 years, and that's a little business on the side. Well, probably 95% of my work is teaching piano. So what I would like to do today is to introduce you to the subconscious, how to access the subconscious mind, things about the subconscious mind in learning particularly. So the field is vast, it's absolutely infinite. As soon as you start to explore one little path, many more open up. But what I'm going to do today is to confine it, put it in the container of metaphor, so that there's things in here that you may be able to use for yourself in your own studios. The big picture is something that I explore, explain, and elaborate on in a book that I'm writing. Right now, I would like to go ahead by asking you to just imagine as I tell you a few stories from my studio. But before I do that, speaking of the imagination, as you see here, Charles Darwin says the imagination is one of the highest prerogatives of man. By this faculty, he unites images and ideas and thus creates brilliant, novel results. Now, this was written 150 years ago in 1871, so let's assume he means mankind when you see that word man. And 12 years after this was written 12 years after his proposal of the evolution of species in the book, The Origin of Species. And this observation comes more as an observation of the evolution of human consciousness and humanity in terms of having a unique creative force, the imagination. Now, I would love to speak to you about creativity in terms of composition today, but as I've said, I will be confining what I speak to you about to speak in terms of piano pedagogy, and I'll be telling you some stories from my studio. So I invite you to enter into the realm of magic and the imagination, starting off with a little story from my studio, demonstrating the power of imagination. So 5 years ago, I had a student come in He was 9 years old. His name's Aaron. And he came in with a whole list of conditions: ADHD, autism, neurodivergent. He'd been seeing a psychologist since he was 3 years old. He was homeschooled. He was very, very, very brilliant, and still is, I should say. So this story, 5 years ago when he was 9, I am very pleased to tell you now that he's 14 and a brilliant person all round, and he's an exceptional actor, he's exceptional with academic work, and a really stunning performer of piano. And he came in with pieces around about grade 1, maybe 2 level, and he played incredibly fast, and as you can imagine, messy, really, 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 really messy. This is the way he liked it. He was enjoying himself. I was there really just to praise him, I think. But being a piano teacher, my job was to more or less work out what I needed to do to clean it up and for him to progress. So I began explaining and setting up things for him to experience the beat, the regularity of the beat, and it just wasn't really landing. He just didn't want to do it. So I was meeting resistance. And it went on, and you know, I'd sort of assemble things into a slightly better shape, but he just persisted with playing the way he wanted to play. So I thought of a little game I could do. So he became the highway patrol officer, and his job was to detect when I was speeding, when I played for him. And he just sort of rolled his eyes. He couldn't care less about authority, and he wanted to speed anyway. So that didn't land. That little game was a flop. So I needed to go away and think more about what I could do with this kid. So what I did was I just changed the whole tactic. Instead of trying to fix him, I got inside his head and I acknowledged his crave for speed and indeed his ability to play really fast. And so I asked him to just imagine something. I asked him if he'd be willing just to sit and listen. I just wanted to just give him another angle on this. So I said something like this: just imagine you are an expert racing car driver and you've been given a powerful red new Ferrari, and tomorrow there's a big race. There's a big rally, a cross-country rally, and you're going to get out on the track and you're going to feel where the road bends, and you're going to enjoy the way you can lean into the curves and where you can accelerate and access this power and control the car. So you're going to get in this car and get to know it. Tomorrow is the big rally. You're a team, you in this car, and you envisage a superb performance tomorrow. Now I was watching a little smile sneaking up on his face as I spoke this, so I could tell it's landing. Then I asked him, come to the piano, let's play again. It was rock solid, and everything got cleaned up as well. So as a consequence of having the space between the beats and having the control, his music was really clean. It worked like magic, and for 5 years I have not come across any speeding whatsoever. It changed his concept because now he's actually very interested in control and accuracy. The reason this landed so well is because he identified with expertise. He values having control. The body and the nervous system respond when somebody's intention completely changes. And this is what had happened with Aaron. Now, I kept my praise pretty low key because the whole thing is he needs to feel that he was the one that did this. It agreed. He found agreement with his deep subconscious value system, and because of that agreement, it was an agreement he made with himself, not with me. So, and I haven't spoken of it since. Now, I believe curiosity is the key to creativity. The subconscious mind is very receptive to inductive forms and styles of teaching, and being indirect. And this is what metaphor does. It piques the curiosity. Thread some magic into your teaching. Metaphors are, as you can see here, metaphors are powerful agents for communicating directly with the subconscious mind because their message penetrates deeply through identifying with feeling and images which immediately influence the body unconsciously. So a metaphor is a portal to the imagination and to our motivation. The imagination resides on the interface of the body and the mind, and changes will take effect immediately because the subconscious mind can adopt and adapt at lightning speed. And this is how they work. They bypass the critical faculty of the conscious mind, acting as an alternative to giving instructions directly, which otherwise might be perceived as personal judgment or correctional comments resulting in resistance, which is what I was getting with Aaron at the beginning. They act as boosters for generating initiative and developing self-confidence. I don't know if you can see the one at the bottom. They're agents allowing people the freedom to adopt changes willingly and to claim responsibility for the decisions that they've made. So there's no substitute for spending time at the piano, for dedication, for sincerity, practice, application. But with a metaphor, there's no trying, and time is no issue. The thing is, there's an art in creating a well-fitting metaphor, the discernment to deliver it undercover. So the imagination, our topic for today. Rudolf Steiner, the 20th century influential educator, says the imagination is the door, unlocking the mysteries, opening when stimulated by art. I believe our theme, our conference theme, the art of imagination, creativity through the piano, encapsulates an ideal formula for teaching, for creative teaching. So what is art? Now, the Latin root of the word art means the putting together of things. And this is fundamental in teaching. The art is putting things together. The ingredients emerge from the subconscious mind. Yet to imagine is a verb, and that is a conscious action. So that's the conscious mind. So there's an interplay here of the two minds, which is what I will get to. So what is real? Is magic real? Now, the subconscious mind cannot distinguish the difference between reality and fantasy. It's on the inside. And I'd like you to think of the word pretend. So the two parts to it, pre and tend, in terms of pretending. Pre is like setting up or preparing or doing something prior to, and the word tend is tendencies. So tendencies of behaviour, like no one can predict the future, but you can prepare for the future by pretending in terms of rehearsing for what you want, the tendencies that you want to have in the future. And this is what kids do, and kids have to do. They have to pretend in order to prepare themselves for their adulthood. Now, they don't know they're doing it, but they need to do it. And pretending is something that all performers need to do. Actors, pianists, pretending is another way of saying rehearsal. But it begs the question, so what is real? Now, I would say that our aim is to make the music real for the student and then ultimately to bring out into the world in performance. Making it real. And that happens through the imagination, the human force. Now, think of this. We have the imagination's ability to project the future, but there's a choice here. It's like a coin, two sides of the coin. On the one hand, the imagination can dream up the worst case scenario and produce anxiety, especially around performance. Anxiety is a destructive misuse of the imagination, a negative propensity that we all have, not just in music, in anything. On the other hand, on the other side of the coin, I should say, creativity is the flip side, constructive use of the imagination, the one where we tap into our human force, our higher powers. And we flip the coin every day in our playing, and really, when you think about it, all of life. And now, just imagine you're out on a boat and you come across an iceberg. Now, it's not going to look like that. You know what it'll look like? You'll just see the tip of the iceberg and you'll see a whole lot of reflection on the water surface. You might see the shadow of the iceberg, but you cannot see beneath the water's surface. Now, that little tip of the iceberg represents the conscious mind, what we're aware of, what we're conscious of. And that's only 5% of our entire being as humans. That's what we can see and hear and taste and smell and touch, our five senses, what comes from the outside world through our neurology into our minds. That's all we're aware of. But we can get a hint of the subconscious through dreams and visions, and when we bring ourselves into a state where the brain waves go into the alpha zone or the theta zone. So that's when you're not asleep and yet you're not in really high activity, you're not talking to yourself, your mind's not so busy. And those zones are where creativity comes about very, very easily. And the theta zone is where hypnotherapy takes place. So it's active imagination. And it's done on behalf of the person, not the practitioner. So the practitioner is merely a guide, like a teacher. You're a guide. your student is the one that plays the music. So the subconscious mind, 95%, it represents 95% of our humanity, our being, and yet we're not aware of it. So it runs all our body systems. It stores all of our values and our beliefs and organises things so that we can manage in this world and that we can walk the paths of the particular life that we've been born into. And for this reason, we need to exercise extreme care with students and people in our care because they're at our mercy. Another thing about the subconscious mind that's very interesting is that, as I touched on, it will obey only your command, meaning my subconscious cannot be influenced by anyone else's unless I allow it. And this is where the responsibility in teaching comes. So I'd like to move on here to just outline some of the features. As I said, it's highly impressionable. It needs clear directions. Its job is to serve you or the owner. And the subconscious mind, it stores all of our memories and it categorises them and is in charge of recall, what's recalled and when. But the fourth point, which you probably can't see, is what I'd really like to speak on. It has no capacity to process negative words, qualifiers. The reason is that communication is transferred through images and feelings. For instance, if you were to say to a student, "Oh no, don't play it so boisterously loud," they might actually pick up on that word boisterous and have, "Oh, that sounds good, that sounds like a fun thing to do," and it won't process the word don't. And, you know, a child may be playing boisterously loud and really enjoy it, and it may be a bourrée, but they don't know it's a bourrée, and perhaps you haven't actually told them what a bourrée is, and they've got it maybe all mixed up with a boogie, and they don't know the difference between a boogie and a bourrée, and they like playing boisterously loud. The way that you would need to address this is, rather than say don't play so boisterously loud, is actually tell them what a bourrée is and to give them images of the dance and give them an idea about how it would feel in the body so they can actually tell the difference. And I would do the boogie at the same time so they know the difference. And here's another example. If you were to say and point on the music, "Oh, here, don't play F sharp. This is not F sharp. This note is not F sharp." You'll just keep getting that F sharp because you've directed their attention to the F sharp. You're going to get it for quite a long time if you do it that way. So you have to say exactly what you want. So just as an aside now, I just ask everyone here if you can just do something today as you go away, before the end of the day. Don't think of the blue tree. And now here is just a list of functions and features of the two minds. So concerning decisions, the conscious mind makes decisions, whereas the subconscious mind waits for decisions. For goals, the conscious mind creates, makes the goals, sets the goals, organises it consciously, but it is the subconscious mind that will organise all the internal abilities and propensities and motivation and energy to bring about that goal, to get that goal. The conscious mind uses initiative. It is rational and cognitive. The subconscious mind, on the other hand, uses imagination, is spontaneous and intuitive. And finally, the conscious mind experiences physical reality, whereas the subconscious mind, as you can see, potential reality. So that's speaking of the future. And now, just to become acquainted a little more with the subconscious mind and metaphor. Metaphor actually hacks into the automatic body response mechanism. And it's like tricking yourself or tricking your student. And why not, if it's for their advantage? It's not being deceptive. It's the way creativity works. So you can come up with, in your student, changes in touch and therefore tone and often tempo. And this comes about with fresh imagery, when you've implanted fresh imagery into their mind and feeling. So rather than a set of coordinates and directions, you're actually working with feelings and images and get much faster, meaningful results. Now, these can also work on another level, the level of the self-concept. And here I go to another story. Kayla, the girl I'm speaking about, played very, very, very gently and timidly, and her tone was very weak and her music wasn't moving along. She really wanted to learn, but her playing was consistently weak. Now, I could get what she needed if I constantly encouraged and gave exhortations, but it just wasn't something she just couldn't self-generate, this sort of playing. And so I asked her if she would just imagine, if she'd be willing to come away from the piano and just imagine. So I said something like this. Now just imagine you are taller and older, you finished school, you're free, and you're walking along in nature on a path and the birds are singing and you've got your artwork under your arm. Now she made the most beautiful illustrations in ink, and I knew about these. And so I asked her to imagine she had her artwork with her and know how good it is, the excellence. And she's feeling confident and assured. And we just sat with that. And she just imagined the clothes she was wearing and the jewellery, the way she wanted her hair, just all future as she wanted it, knowing and feeling assured. So I saw her smiling, and so I knew, okay, it's time. So I asked her to just step up now to the piano and bring that feeling with you and be that girl. And she just played immediately with momentum and depth of tone. It was absolutely wonderful, and it's been like that since. So it's just a way of telling a very simple story, very believable too. There's nothing in there that's couldn't have come true. It's the concept, the level of her self-concept that changed, that made immediate changes to who she felt she was when she came to the piano. And I recommended that she practice this mental visualization every time she did her piano practice. So she came to the piano as a different person. And she had practiced, by the way, so it's not, like a miracle. But it was like magic, the change being so fast. Now, we all have inner resources available to us. They already are existing in competency, coordination, and confidence. You can just imagine how you're going to bring this over into the piano if you come across challenges in learning. This happens quite a lot. And so you can make correspondences and likenings. So just imagine the strategies of mind or body that are similar in, for example, ball games, surfing, dance, yoga, martial arts, cooking, even video gaming. Now, I want to give you an example here with another story. This is about Jodie, an adult student, and she was studying the Beethoven Sonata in F-sharp major for A-Mus. And she complained a bit that it felt like it was out of control, it was overwhelming, and it was she was feeling a lack of confidence in her fingers and her mind. She just couldn't deal with it and wondered what I should do. So I suggested that we look at it 2 stages. First of all, on the emotional level, because she just felt she wasn't getting along with Beethoven and she didn't want to face this when she came home from work. Now, she's a corporate banker, so she has other skills. The first, to deal with the emotional side of it, I suggested that she look at it like a relationship with Beethoven that she's having. And what do you do in a relationship when you know you want to get along with someone, you've decided you will, you exercise, you listen to what that person's saying, you work out how they're ticking, you have respect, you have care, all those sorts of things. So she started to get curious about looking at it that way, on that personal sort of level, so that she could engage with Beethoven every night after work. Then we also reframed the situation using her insights into how to manage a big system. She looked at it through office management, protocol, the organisation of people and teams, and looked at the negative effects of things like micromanaging people. That was in terms of being too specific in certain places in the piece. Anyhow, to cut the long story short, she went away feeling confident that she could manage this. She had a strategy and she knew that she had it in her to do this. So she adopted this new vision and moved on. And I might say now she's really and truly moved on. She's having shorter, more casual engagements with other composers and enjoying herself a lot. She's a single woman and free to choose what she wants to do. She's over Beethoven now. So in winding this up, I'd like to give you an idea here to think about. Music is like magic. A piece of music is like a spell set to deliver an enchanting experience. Model the tactics of the magician behind the scene and then out on stage. Music reaches into the mind, eliciting a rich range of images and emotions. And I suggest that you could say something like this to your students preparing for performances. Just imagine, pretend you are a magician. You practice every minuscule movement as magicians do. Your intention is clear, and you practice planning exactly where you want to lead the listener's ears and minds. Then out on stage, you keep spinning that spell, aware in every moment as they follow your lead, being enthralled in the magic. So I hope that you are feeling inspired and keen to explore deeper into the subconscious mind and the balance between the two minds. The art of imagination is the putting together of things, and I've been busy putting together these 2 volumes of music from intermediate to advanced level. So you have a handout with some of the details there of the different tonalities and time signatures, and I'm very, very happy to speak with you near the Wirrapang table if you would like me to show you or explain things at the piano, and if you'd like to hear the recordings that I've made. There's a QR code there on a playlist to YouTube, or just look up my YouTube channel. There's all sorts of things there. And I have arrived at question time. I wonder if you're wondering about anything I've said today. Are you curious? Perhaps magic, blue trees. Is there any questions? I don't see any. I'm here all week, so if you want to have a chat or ask a question, please do. And so you'll see here another quote about what is imagination. More or less, imagination is the true sign of intelligence. And I just would like to thank you very much again for choosing to come here. Please ask questions either directly or go to my website, simply amandahandel.com. Thank you for lending me your ears.